Why an emergency fund? The first step along the way is to understand what an emergency fund actually is. An emergency fund is cash that you've saved up for the sole purpose of helping you maintain your normal way of life through the emergencies that life hands you. Most of the time, you don't have to touch the emergency fund at all. It just sits there, earning a bit of interest and waiting until you actually need it. When you lose your job, when an appliance breaks down, when your car needs a repair, that's where the emergency fund comes into play. Most of the time, people don't have an emergency fund. They see the idea of having to save up money as some form of punishment. After all, money put away in a savings account and locked away is money that you can't use to live, right? That's quite the opposite actually. Having an emergency fund means that you have room to breathe. You don't have to panic when things don't go your way. For example, you lose your job, or perhaps you need to replace a hot water heater. Instead of having to find some way to squeeze those expenses on a credit card, rely on someone for some money to help, you can just pay the bill and move on in life. Another problem to emergency fund is temptation that people have to spend the money on things that aren't emergencies. They see they've built up several $100s in savings and they start thinking about having the latest gadget or going on a holiday, and that's what they do. If you have a savings account for indulging, that's awesome. Start an indulge fund too, if it makes sense for you. It's important though to just leave the emergency fund completely alone until you need it. Deposit money in there and don't even look at the balance until an actual emergency occurs. So what's the first step? Most people set a large goal for their emergency fund straight away and then find that it's very hard to get there. 8 months of living expense is an enormous goal. Often that will take years to reach, and along the way you're bound to get disheartened. Instead, one great way to start is to set a goal that's more reasonable. Make your initial goal to have an emergency fund of just $250 or $500. That's a goal you can reach in just a few months. And yet, it's an amount that can make a huge difference when you have an emergency. Then, break that goal down into smaller pieces. Perhaps you can save $25 a week. If that's the case, you can have $250 emergency fund in just 10 weeks. So you can set that as your goal. Maybe you can put away $40 a week, which would bring you to the $500 goal in 3 months. Make sure to not set your savings plan too high at first, either in terms of the amount you can save each week or the overall amount. It should challenge you just a bit, but not to be a number that's simply unreachable. Then you're thinking, that's great, but where am I going to come up with $25 a week? I barely make ends meet now. That's a pretty common sentiment from people who are just beginning to turn their financial situation around. There's a lot of ways to come up with extra money throughout the month. Here are some things you can do to get the ball rolling. Request a rate reduction on your credit card. If you're carrying a credit card balance, getting your interest rate reduced will directly save you money each month. Just flip over your credit card, call the number on the back, ask to speak to a supervisor, and simply request that the rate be reduced. Suggest that you're considering transferring your balance off the card. For better auto insurance and homeowners insurance, try RACQ, AMI, and QBE insurance for starters. Just visit their websites, get some quotes, and make a switch. Install a programmable thermostat and program it. It's easy. Just take a few minutes or so, and it will cut your cooling and heating bill by 20% or so. Set it so that the air conditioner and or furnace don't run while you're sleeping or at work, so that the energy isn't wasted when no one is around. Use a list for grocery shopping. A few minutes of planning before you go will save you a few minutes in the store. Plus, it will help you stay focused on the stuff you need, reducing your grocery bill because you're putting less unnecessary stuff in the cart. Trim unnecessary monthly bills. Are you subscribing to something but are rarely using it? Stop paying for it. Make sure to set reasonable milestones along the way. In a few months you'll have hit the first milestone, and it'll feel good. The account will have enough money in it that it'll start earning a bit of interest on its own, and you'll start to feel in control of the situation. Now keep going, set another goal, an emergency fund of $1,000. Keep that automatic savings plan in place. Once you reach that goal, aim for a single month's worth of living expenses, then 2 months, then 3. Just keep watching the emergency fund grow. So you might start seeking out more ways to save. Just keep setting your goal for yourself and keep pushing yourself just little to make it there. Before you know it, your life won't be disturbed by these kinds of emergencies. You'll sleep a lot better at night knowing that.